Welcome and welcome to Executive Encore. This is the podcast and video, YouTube video, where we help women celebrate the awesomeness of every stage of life while we're thriving physically, mentally, and emotionally. I'm Patricia Muir, and today's episode is all about one of my favorite topics. My followers will know this. It's about extreme self-care and wellness for women between the age of 40 plus up to 70 and beyond. So that's quite a few decades, and we're going to try and cover those decades today. We'll explore how to reframe self-care for this new chapter, any new chapter that you're in, while building muscle. It's truly your body's retirement plan. I love that. And that's Kaylee's quote there. I'll be introducing Kayla in a moment, but I just want to say it's a significant goal for remastering life and work. We need to be working towards something, and if our body's going to help us to get there, we need to take care of it. We talk about innovative approaches that can support women navigating perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, because we have that wide audience with us today. There's so much for us to unpack for women who are preparing for the next chapter of their life and work. So grab your coffee or tea or your water. I have water. And let's get started. So today it's my pleasure to introduce you to Kayla Johnson, an expert in fitness from perimenopause to postmenopause. Kayla, I'm sorry if I said Kaylee, I meant to say
That's
Kayla.
okay. That's all right.
Is also an entrepreneur and a women's fitness wellness advocate with over 30 years experience. As a co-owner of Star Cycle Santa Barbara and two-time Lululemon ambassador, Kayla inspires women to embrace fitness through strength, balance, and my favorite, self-trust, trusting in our own bodies. Kayla helps women navigate midlife and beyond, empowering them to achieve lasting health and fulfillment through sustainable and empowering change. So, Kayla, thank you very much for joining me today. I would imagine this conversation of self-care and fitness is very different in our age of 20s and 30s. So I'm interested in understanding why you as an expert would recommend reframing our self-care and fitness in the decades that follow the 20s and 30s.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. And thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here and talking to your audience. Well, I think that those who are listening to us right now could definitely concur that what we did in our 20s and 30s really no longer works as we head into our perimenopausal and menopausal and postmenopausal years. And that is, well, how I came to this space. I've been in the industry for over 30 years, but how I came to this space was during COVID, that little thing called COVID. You probably have heard of it, right?
Yeah, we heard about it.
And I think that time for a lot of people was almost like a reframe. And even though I knew I always wanted to stay in the industry, when you're just born to do something, I just was born to be in fitness. That's what I've been doing it since I was 18. It's always been a heart space for me. But when COVID put a screeching halt to that bricks and mortar fitness, right? I was dragging my spin bikes in and out of my studio. To be really honest, I was really upset at most things. What I didn't realize what was happening at the same exact time as the world was imploding is I was going through perimenopause.
Oh.
And yeah, exactly. So for those who are listening who can totally relate to this, it was very easy to blame what was happening with me, right? The increased alcohol, the increased food, the increased agitation, just not knowing what was going to come the next day on COVID, which had something to do with it, I'm sure. But the fact that my body was changing did not help. And that is how I came to this space. So in that moment of when all this was happening 4 or 5 years ago, I had no idea which end was up, to be clear. This is all a very hindsight reflection and conversation. But that's when it really just got turned on its head. Fitness got turned on its head for me. I've been somebody who's never struggled. Now, to be very clear, I've always been fitness first. I have 3 kids. We have 6 kids together. I have 3 stepkids, very, very busy families, but somehow, some way, by the grace of God, I just knew that I had to put myself first. And I
Mm,
knew that if I could care for myself, that I had the ability to care for others. And I preach self-care so much and so often, which is why I love that you love that so much as well, because we have got to take care of ourselves so we can show up for the rest of the world.
mhm,
And when it came from a fitness perspective and just feeling good in my body and maintaining weight and just doing all the things, being a busy mom, 2030s, even the early part of 40, just kind of did it. Now, it wasn't effortless, it was with effort. But as I hit the perimenopausal years, it's just like everything stopped working.
mm,
All the things that I was doing, all the things that I was teaching were just no longer working for this perimenopausal body.
mhm,
And that's where I really understood, wow, there is no leveling of the playing field like midlife for women.
mhm.
So I
Yeah.
just went to work. I just went to work and really understanding like what we need in this phase of life. And wow, even as a fitness professional, I was shocked at how different it looked,
Mhm, mhm,
than what it looked like in our 20s and 30s and even early 40s. It just
mhm.
really we have to care for ourselves in a much different way.
Would you say that the self-care expanded for you, like your perspective or perception of self-care expanded beyond the what so many of us in our 20s and 30s were concerned about was, as I mentioned, fitting into the jeans or having a nice manicure or having our hair done and things like that. Um, how did you see the reframe in fitness during that time?
I would say, well, to answer your question, like things come much easier in our youth. And like I always say, youth is wasted on the young, right?
Don't
It's all about perspective. Yeah.
yeah.
So yes, like what you deem as important in your 20s and 30s in your fitness, because it comes so easy, is just is it's a completely different conversation. And now my wellness, I don't even call it fitness anymore. I call it
Yeah.
my wellness is
That's a good
encompassed.
reframe.
Yeah,
Right.
encompassed by so much more than just physical activity or what I'm putting in my mouth.
Yeah.
For example, I've invested in an infrared sauna. I invested in a cold plunge. My husband and I start our day at 5 o'clock in the morning like clockwork because there's a circadian rhythm we have to now consider. I mean, 10 years ago, if you would have said circadian rhythm to me, I don't even know if I would have known what you were talking about. So there's just so much more that goes into this. Years older than me. I'm 49, he's 56. And we're in daylight as quickly as we can. We're in the hot tub, we're in the cold plunge, we're journaling, we're reading, we're connecting. We've promised to stay off of our phones. We're paying attention to blue light. I mean, oh my gosh, I
Mm.
feel like I'm the meme on Instagram. It's like the red light therapy thing on mask on my face and drinking my lemon water on my walking pad. I mean, there's just so much that goes into our wellness as we get older. And I just see it as a real privilege. I just see it
Mhm.
as a real privilege to age in a way that feels really, really graceful
Mhm.
and
Oh,
not going silent into the good night. How's that?
good for you. And all this is, even though we call it self-care, it's almost a gift to ourselves as well, right?
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
it,
Yes.
yeah, it's not just about hitting numbers on a scale or losing
No,
weight. It's about energy, mental clarity, trusting in our body, because our body, I believe that our body is magic. You probably feel the same way, right?
I
And
do.
we get joy from that. So it's not about perfection. It's about just you're doing quite a few things there, but I think what I'm taking from what you're saying is that you are trying these different things, right, to see
Yes.
what your body needs and how your body can really process through all. Actually is innovation, right? And we'll talk a little more about that later, but it is
Yeah.
a time for uh, re-examining what our wellness looks like and what we need to be well, rather than going by what we were told when we were in our 20s and 30s. So yeah.
Well, yes, and for anybody who has shared my experience, who's listening, they can relate to this. I'm a recovering cardio addict.
Oh,
And so,
okay.
I mean, a full-on cardio bunny, this girl, okay? And that's where, well, first of all, we're indoctrinated
Hmm.
with that's how you burn fat is through cardio, right? Which is incorrect. But we're indoctrinated with thinking that the more calories we can burn, the skinnier we can be.
Hmm.
And not only is that just defunct thinking from the ground up, but as we get older, embracing our bodies and giving ourselves some grace and backing off of that intensity is really, really important. And listen, I got lucky. I ended up in the weight room when I was 19 years old.
Hmm.
So I ended up there because the boys were cute, but I stayed because I liked how it made me feel. And never did I ever think that I was making deposits for 90-year-old Kayla.
Hmm.
Hello. No, I just got lucky. And I stayed in that weight room because it made me feel strong. And it's just part of what I've always done. But I'm realizing as we're gracefully coming into older age that it's never too late to start. I
Hmm.
sing it from the rooftops. I'm trying to get every woman I possibly can to lift heavy stuff because it really is your retirement. I mean, all of us are planning financially for retirement when there's that time where we're not going to be working and we need to have a nest egg. And I don't know how many women are looking at their bodies and thinking about what does that retirement look like?
Hmm.
What am I doing today as a 45-year-old, 55-year-old, 65-year-old that's going to prepare me for 70, 80, 90-year-old Kayla?
Yeah.
And I that's really, I mean, I love feeling good in my body. But
Hmm.
what I always tell clients is that you can feel good in your body and prep for that girl. You're doing the work is the same. The work is the same.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the weight training piece is a non-negotiable. It's just
Is that right?
non-negotiable.
Yeah.
It's our longevity organ. It's what's going to keep us intact. It's what's going to keep us out of the hospital. It's
Yes.
what's going to keep us from being a statistic for a broken hip. That
Hmm.
muscle, that skeletal muscle is attached to those bones. We want to stave off osteoporosis. Like we have got to get in the weight room. Super
Yeah.
important.
That's a bold statement, but I think I would say to you, shout it from from wherever you
Yes.
can, right?
Yes, girl.
Uh,
Yes.
the muscle and your bone density is so now your fitness and your wellness is your body's retirement plan. Many of our listeners have already reframed retirement to it being their encore. So how they
Yes.
can go through their encore being who they really want to be, like out there. I
Yeah.
have some clients that truly are in their, I think one is in the 50s. Yeah, she's in her early 50s, and she's climbed mountains, and the other one is in her 60s, and she teaches people how to climb mountains. Like she takes them on these treks. So the message is getting out there, that women can do these things, but to sort of shine the light on the importance that you said, it is an investment so that we can be active in our encore rather than, cruises might be nice to some people, but I really don't want to be shuttled on and off a cruise in a wheelchair. I want to be
Me
able to
neither.
do everything on an island, right?
Yep.
So, how can we plan in order to have a good return on this significant investment, that it's not all about money, it's about our
Mhm.
body? Are there some
Mhm.
specific things that you'd like to share? Perhaps maybe some of the good things and maybe some of the big mistakes that you see women might be taking during these decades.
Yeah. Well, old thinking. Can we just
Hmm.
start with that? Whether, you're born in the 50s, the 60s, like me, the 70s, somewhere in that, in those decades, there's been a lot of indoctrination into the diet culture. And all come by it so honestly. We come by it so honestly, but it's there. And that's one of the most fun things about what I get to do with my clients, because it's a one-to-one process, is really start to unpack the stories that they've been told and the stories that they tell themselves about how to take care of themselves. And I would say that probably something that I still hear is eat less and move more.
Hmm.
And eating less and moving more is not the answer.
Mm.
And it's not the answer for obesity. It is not the answer for those of us who are in perimenopause or menopause. It's an old school way of thinking. And my best advice would be to ditch, what we learned in the 80s and 90s about how to care for ourselves and to really focus on how we're fueling our bodies. I come from a very, very common sense approach. I'm massively anti diet culture, if you haven't gotten that already.
Mhm.
And I really bring it back to the basics of whole foods. I like to see women, limit alcohol intake. I like to see women limit their time in restaurants. And I'm not talking about being crazy restrictive. I'm just talking about creating a sanctuary, a place where in your home, and if you're still in the workforce or whatever that next encore is, really protecting that space and fueling your body with whole foods. We have got to get us as a population out of packaged foods and into a healthier way. But I'll tell you what, I could just sit here for the next hour and tell you about all the diets I went on. I
Mm.
mean, it's a long laundry list. And look at the keto diet, for example. All they've done is repackage do you remember the Atkins diet? Do you remember
Yes, I
that?
know.
Like back in the early 90s? They've
Yeah.
just repackaged that. But the problem with it is they've now made all these keto packaged foods that you can pick up anywhere. So it's just really unwinding that for women, really unwinding that and understanding that if we can just take a real basic whole food, whole body approach, we can make some real traction. But I'll tell you what, it takes you got to peel back the layers of the onion. It takes some
Yeah.
rewiring. It takes some
It,
rewiring.
yeah, it does, especially when, like you were saying, it's so even diet or keto food is now convenient, right?
Absolutely. It's everywhere.
And I love what you said about the sanctuary in your home. Like, even if you do eat out once, twice a week, whatever is good for you in your lifestyle, at least in your sanctuary is your home,
Mm-hmm.
you have good whole food. I'd never thought about that before. I think
Oh, I love that. Oh, good. Oh, good. Did I just teach you something? I love
you
that.
just taught me,
Yeah.
you inspired me, because you know what's
Good.
in my sanctuary cupboard right now? You know, the best I do is like just social tea biscuits, but
I
it's
love it. Well, but you know what? And I'll leave you with this one too. Don't use up your willpower in your house.
oh
It's
my
the same
goodness.
it's the same idea, right? Like you really, and honestly, when you learn to protect your sanctuary, because this is the reality, retired or still in the workforce, you're spending 85% of your time either at work or in your home. And if you work from home, then where you are is where you are. And if you're not protecting that sanctuary in that space, that is a slippery slope.
Yeah, that's really important point. I'm sure, going back to COVID, I think they talked about the COVID-15 or the COVID-30, maybe. I don't know.
I
Depends on
know.
when you actually went back out from your office to work. I know a lot of people, I think it was the comfort food as well, Kayla, right?
Yes.
Um, it,
Yes.
so it was an emotional thing. I would imagine emotional eating really took over during that time. But now we have to sort of clear out our sanctuary and
Yes.
make it a different way of being in our sanctuary. And one of them is food. One of them is, I guess, getting out of your sanctuary, having some movement each day, right? But
Well, and you bring up an interesting point though, because think about the length of COVID. It
yeah,
was not 2 weeks like we thought it was going to be.
yeah,
So when you change it from that thought process to really looking at what's happened 2, 3 years, you either created some really amazing habits or some really horrible ones.
yeah,
And if you were me, you created some really horrible ones. We were
yeah.
drinking, we were eating, we were still exercising because I have a spin studio, so I had access to workouts, but it didn't matter. We created some really, really bad habits. I mean, I literally woke up one day kind of not really still in the COVID fog, but not post COVID like we are now, thank goodness. And it was like, whoa, I'm out of alignment. I'm out
Yeah.
of alignment because there was just so much time had passed. Now, so sweet. I talked to probably over 100 women at least in a month. Um, and I hear some great stories about women who changed their lives and lost all kinds of weight and did all kinds of wonderful things during COVID. I was like, well, not me. Good for you. That was not this girl. I had to get it back in order. So anyway, yeah, all those habits, protecting your sanctuary, getting that sanctuary back in order, not using willpower in your own home,
Yeah,
important stuff.
I think we need to spread that message. That's a unique, inspiring message to me, and I'm going
Oh, good.
to
I'm glad.
take what you've shared with me, and I'm going to expand on that. Like, I'm going to keep talking about that, because yes, that's important, because we talk about our body being a sanctuary as well, right?
Yeah.
So we have to
Mhm.
take care of our body, but to take care of our body, we have to be in the right environment as well, so
Yep.
yeah. So I know there is some cutting edge yet increasingly important part of wellness for perimenopause and postmenopause, like through that. What do
Mhm.
women need to know about some of the innovation in women's health, fitness, and wellness? And you spoke about this. It's not what we used to, there's some changing of our beliefs around that. What's new and innovative in our thoughts and even in our approach to women's health and fitness and wellness?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really something that I love to talk about because I feel that it might be misunderstood. And it's not because it's necessarily misunderstood. I'll just say this. I live very close to Hollywood, and Hollywood has a great way of doing that. Taking things possibly a little too far. I'll leave it at that. So can I tell you, do we have time for a little story?
Certainly,
Okay,
yes. Let's do
I'll
that.
make it quick. Okay, but it
Come on,
really is
don't make it quick. Let's get a good story.
but it really is important so your listeners can really understand how I ended up here, because it is a very pivotal part for me. So as I struggled through the perimenopausal years and I was trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again, okay, and I was uncovering all the things. To be very clear, during COVID, I didn't even know what the word perimenopause meant,
Mm-hmm,
which is
mm-hmm.
a little bit embarrassing as a fitness professional, but I'm just being honest because that's the only way I
Mm-hmm.
know how to be. Nobody was talking to me about sex, let alone perimenopause, when I was a young woman. So I didn't know. And I made a lot of assumptions that I'm sure women who are listening can really relate to about what I thought that it meant. So because I was having a cycle, I didn't realize that I was in those years. So I started to then do research. I'm a research hound. That's just my thing. And realized, oh, wow, I need some HRT, some hormone replacement therapy support. Being in the industry for as long as I've been in the industry, I have always preached, you are never going to find a silver bullet. If you're looking for the answer, there is no answer. There is no such thing as monotherapy. But can I be honest for a second? I
Mm-hmm.
was really hoping that when I got on hormone replacement therapy, I was going to feel better and lose some weight. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
being honest. Even though I preach it and I knew that, like, in the back of my mind, that probably wasn't going to be the answer, I was so desperate because from coming from someone who has never struggled with their weight, I could not put my jeans on. And because I own a spin studio, I'm very visible. So someone's always celebrating something, whether it's a birthday or a milestone ride. So there is
Oh.
documentation of me changing. And it's not an exaggeration to when I say it was overnight. It was so quick. And the other caveat I want to add to this is you don't meet anyone that does more of the things than me. I mean, I literally live my life by example. And like I mentioned to you, I've got an infrared sauna and a cold plunge. I prioritize protein and fiber and steps. I've backed off the intense cardio. I do the weight training. I sleep. This Aura Ring owns me because I'm trying to track my sleep constantly. I do all the things and I was stuck. Okay. Little fun fact about me. I'm obsessed with brain health. I'm terrified of dementia. And I don't know where that comes from. It's a bit irrational, but again, I'm just honest. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how I am. So anybody who knows me will send me stuff about brain health. So a client, okay, fast forward, a client sends me a podcast about dementia in connection to GLP-1 peptides. How GLP-1 peptides they're finding in research are helping with dementia, which makes sense now that I'm researched because GLP-1s, when dosed correctly, okay,
Yeah.
will bring down inflammation in the body,
Okay.
including the brain, obviously. Okay. So I am riveted by this information, not at all thinking about weight loss. I'm thinking about dementia. Well, as I'm listening to this doctor on this podcast, I am having this crazy moment because she is talking about GLP-1 peptides, and she is telling my story. All the things that she is saying. I feel like I'm in a perimenopause sweater. Like my clothes don't fit me yet. I've never changed any part of my lifestyle. All the things that I was doing are no longer working. I am stuck. All of these things that I was feeling in my head, but I really couldn't talk to anybody about because I'm the motivator, right? I'm the spin studio owner. I'm Kayla Johnson Fitness. I'm the expert. Really dark when you don't know where to turn to. So to listen to this super educated woman who was 1 year ahead of me talking about exactly how I was feeling. Okay, well, when I realized she's talking about Ozempic, it's like, okay, so I want to just make this
Okay.
very clear. I am not the trainer who is saying to somebody who's 80, 90 pounds overweight, what's your problem? You just need to eat less and move more. I'm the trainer who is applauding every single person, agree or disagree, that's on Ozempic, because I'm a firm believer of this. You need to teach somebody, let them win the race, and then teach them how to run. They are going to die of comorbidities if we cannot get this weight off. So super applauding the effort and Ozempic for people who are really struggling with obesity.
Mhm.
But for a perimenopausal woman to lose 10, 15, 20 pounds, I judged myself so hard that I was even going to consider it. And you know what I knew in like my dark moments when my head would hit the pillow? That if I was going to even consider it, I was going to have to come out with it because I'm not the
Yeah.
trainer on
Yeah.
social media channels who's going to say like, oh, just eat more protein,
Yeah.
look like me, right? I'm not ever going to do that. I'm not going to lead someone off a cliff. So I do what I always do. I went to work, I researched, I got educated, and you have to come through because this is the topic that everyone loves to hate. And when people come for me, I'm like, wow, tell me you are uneducated without telling me you're uneducated. Because when you do the research and you understand what these peptides do, they are life changing. So I went down that road. I got laughed at by every doctor in Santa Barbara. That's where I live. They all laughed at me. They still think I'm crazy, to be clear. Your BMI is so low. There's no way we would never write you a prescription. This is never going to happen. So I had to dig. I'm going to
Okay.
say a long story about how I found my first physician, but it was kismet. Got so educated by this really special doctor and thought, okay, I have to try this. And I've never felt better.
Mhm.
In fact, I love 49-year-old Kayla way more than 25-year-old Kayla. First of all, because
Mhm.
she knows what she's doing, partly, mostly, still learning. But how I feel in my body, it's like without being dramatic, I felt like I was a prisoner. That's how it
Mhm.
felt. I didn't recognize myself. And when dosed correctly, and you and I are not talking about that because you and I are not physicians. Okay, that is not our scope. I connect my clients with physicians in order to do this. It's a very, very personalized story, just like your wellness. Okay.
Mhm.
It's very controversial because it's misunderstood, but I am now helping educate that in our perimenopausal, menopausal, postmenopausal years, it is never too late to help your body with inflammation. And
Yeah.
that is what that belly fat is. That is what that extra weight is. It is the body holding on to inflammation. And the more I research it and the more I understand it, it's going to be what was misunderstood. It'll all come out. The truth always does. But
Mhm.
I can't say enough about it. Now, I want to say this. The poison is in two things. The poison is in the compliance because this is not monotherapy. You have to build your house on a strong foundation. You are not building your house on sand. That's where I'm the expert. I'm the lifestyle girl. I'm making sure that you are compliant, that you are doing all the things that you need to be doing to add in this little tiny tool that's just going to sweeten the pot. Okay. Without the lifestyle piece, in my opinion, without the, prioritizing weight training, prioritizing protein and fiber and sleep and all the things, why bother? If you're not going to do the foundational pieces, adding all these little tiny tools in, they're probably not even going to help. So the compliance and the dosing, we're just seeing people getting cranked up way too high. And that's a problem out there in the marketplace. I don't want to go down that road because that's not what you and I are doing here. But I'm only saying that to your listeners to say that I understand why they're misunderstood and I understand the skepticism because that was me. I was never judging those who needed to had a lot of weight to lose, but man, did I judge myself. Sad
That's
that
interesting.
I did, sad that I did. I got over it. I got over it, but it was a very, very long road, especially when you're talking to the medical community and they're looking at you like you're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
have to keep persevering because I knew I was onto something. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was onto something. They didn't understand it the way that I understood it. And so I just had to keep going, which is what I did, which is what I do. Like, get out of my way. Right. I always ask my mom, I'm like, why did you let me do that? Just things like back in high school. She's like, Kayla, I would have had to put a straight jacket on you to get you to not do something. So I'm pretty tenacious. If there's a will, there's a way, right? So anyway, so that's my story about GLP-1 peptides. It's a much longer conversation than the time we have here to spend together. But for those who are interested in learning more, I really encourage you to do a little bit of research. The information is there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really interesting conversation.
And find a good physician that
Yes.
is going to do the research with you. My worry is always that our physicians, they're one step behind. Physicians, I love you, but I
They
find
are.
for women as we age, they're always one step behind. And I'll tell you my story. My physician was a year younger than me. And with every phase I was going through, she says, so what should I expect next year? Right?
Yes.
Because they just can't keep up with everything.
They
And
can't, but we
yeah,
know that. We know that they don't have I mean, it's not their fault. I
no,
get mad at them. I get mad at them still, but I try not to. They didn't have any schooling in menopause care. Not a minute.
no,
Not a minute.
no.
And they don't, post childbirth, they don't really know what to do with us. And it's just
Yeah,
been such a disservice for us. And here we are now, which is I feel like I'm part of that crusade. You're part of that crusade of standing up and saying, like, no, hold on a second. Right? We're going to take care of ourselves and but somebody has to pave the way, right? Somebody has to pave the way. And that's what we're doing here.
yeah. And there is still the element of self-trust in yourself as well. Like you were very tenacious about it because you trusted that you needed to get to a solution for you. And this is what I say to women all the time. You don't need confidence to talk about these things. You need to build that self-trust. The only way you can do that is do your research and talk to the right
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you will have disappointment and you will go through this change not trusting yourself or not trusting your
Absolutely.
body, you know? So, yeah, this has been quite a conversation.
Yeah.
Um,
We unpacked a lot. You and I just really packed it in, didn't we?
yeah, I said there was going to be a lot to pack in.
I know, I
So,
know.
as we wrap it up in a nice little tight bow, to our audience, I want to thank you first of all, and anyone who's your follower and is watching this as well. To my followers, anyone listening, I hope you feel inspired by this type of conversation and take charge of your wellness. My blog the last couple of weeks ago was about aging through the different decades and thriving
Mhm.
through the decades. So this is all tying in very nicely. And whether it's reframing self-care, building strength for the future,
Mhm.
or exploring exciting new innovation in women's health, fitness, and wellness, that's what's going to support us in our Executive Encore decades. Remember, and I think that Kayla said it, every action that you take today is a meaningful step toward a vibrant, active, and thriving tomorrow, hopefully into our 90s. I love that
Yes, I love that. I
one.
know. Why am I stopping at 80? I need to go on to the 90s. Yeah,
I
exactly.
know.
You're right.
It just seems
Yes.
that's
Amen.
the other thing too. Like,
Amen.
we think, oh, well, lucky if we make 80, like, oh, we could be 90,
And then
right?
and then you inch closer to 80, you're like, "Wait a second."
Yeah. You know what? For some women watching this, it's another 30 years, right? Or more. That's more than they spent in their careers. So this is what I say to them. You got to be doing more than just saving for this time. You've got to be doing something to invest in other ways, your lifestyle changes in your lifestyle, examining what's right for you and
Mhm.
investing in your health. So if this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please share your wellness stories, your questions, and your goals with me on LinkedIn and with Kayla. And Kayla will be very happy to answer your questions,
Mhm.
even if you have to, like, there are some that I would not be able to approach, but Kayla's the expert here. And if you're ready to take your wellness to the next level, check out Kayla's resources and programs that are tailored specifically for women like you. You will see in the ticker where and how you can contact Kayla. I'd encourage you to do that for sure. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the Executive Encore video podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Visit my website at patriciamuir.com and subscribe to the Sunday Encore newsletter so that you can continue to share inspiring and empowering content with women like you. You can share, we can share, but we all need to share more. Mm-hmm. Until next time, please subscribe to the Sunday Encore newsletter to read more about Kayla, who will be featured in the weekly blog this week and the published newsletter this Sunday, April 27th. So we'll be expanding more on this and thriving through the different decades. When you subscribe to the newsletter, you will also receive VIP access to resources available to subscribers only and a special call to action from Kayla. Kayla, would you like to tell people what they can expect when they are a VIP access person?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to spend for your audience an hour doing a free consultation. That really gives me an opportunity to, and please note that you're, from this, that one of your listeners and from this podcast, but that really gives me an opportunity to assess where you are and potentially what tools you would need and based on what goals you wanted to accomplish. But I would love to offer that to your audience for sure.
That would be very valuable. And all links to access contact information for Kayla and for me will be in the show notes. So you don't have to write anything down now unless you are feverishly writing things down. This video podcast is produced by Maestro Quality as part of the Executive Encore program, and it's hosted by myself, Patricia Muir. So this is where your Executive Encore begins. Until next time, take care of yourself. Do what's best for you, and don't jeopardize what you've built for yourself. Keep on investing. See you in the next episode of Executive Encore.